And we are live. So, welcome everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you find yourself. I am very pleased to welcome everybody back to the LinkedIn Lives. We've had a little bit of a hiatus over the summer, but we're back in action with lots of great guests and very happy to kick this one off with Jessica Kramer, who is operating partner and go-to-market leader at Techni Infinity Ventures. Welcome, Jessica.
Hi, how are you? It's so good to be here.
Yes, so pleased to have you on, Jessica. I mean, first of all, we've had an amazing off camera chat. So let's hope we can replicate that now because you're
Exactly.
full of amazing nuggets for the audience. And also, we met at High Tech very briefly on the stand, and so it's nice to just I love these situations where you get to cross with super smart people again. So before we dive into all the different questions, do you want to just tell us a bit about yourself, your background, what you're doing, how you got into hospitality, all the above?
Yeah, I'd love to. I think it kind of comes full circle for me. So I took a class when I was at Brown as an undergrad from an entrepreneurship and my section was led by a hotelier, John Cohen, who's the CEO of Newport Hotel Group, and I just got to know him, and he was an incredible person, and I learned some stuff about the hotel business, and ended up working there for the summer after I graduated. We wrote a course on entrepreneurship together that we actually ended up teaching together for about 5 years, and he still teaches in the fall semester at Brown. But I was already on my way to law school. I went to law school at NYU, and then I was a real estate attorney. And in September of 2008, I went back to Newport Hotel Group as in a role that was meant to be in-house counsel and acquisitions. And for those who remember September of 2008, it was very hard to acquire hotels from 2008 to 2011. And I ended up taking over tech, first kind of from a vendor perspective of just looking at our contracts, what did that look like, kind of a lawyer lens. And then I really took on e-commerce because there was so much opportunity. There wasn't yet someone at Newport Hotel Group focused on that area. I ended up consolidating a lot of our technology under TravelClick. Today Amadeus, but at the time it was TravelClick. And then as I worked over the next year and a half to really figure out how do we make all of these solutions work for our hotels, TravelClick came to me and said, "Hey, can you build out our mid-market business? We'd love to have you do that." And that's how I ended up in tech. And so, it was this unexpected journey, and it's really been magical. From there, I went to Alice, where I was the first sales leader, 10th employee, and we sold that company to Expedia 4 years later. And I also opened up Europe for us. So I got to live in Paris for a while and Scandinavia, and spend time with amazing clients like Strawberry, and really learn the European market, which has been incredibly useful, and works very differently than the US. And then from there, I went to Seven Rooms. We just sold that company to DoorDash. So I was there when we took the company from 25 million to 50 million in ARR. And, I started there 6 weeks before the pandemic. So I have this perfect timing of joining companies in upside down cycles. So it's incredible to see, how we were able to get through that time and pivot the company, but then also to see this amazing exit. And I'm still, good friends with those founders. I was out with Kinesh, their CTO, last week. From there, I founded a company called Logistics that is another hotel operations platform similar to Alice. And that company was sold to Kipsu. Spent a relatively short amount of time there, but really focused on select service there, which was really nice to focus in on that segment. And then after that, I sort of said, I don't know what I want to do next. I'm going to offer some go-to-market help to my friends in the industry. That turned into a big consulting and advisory business. But along the way, I thought to myself, startups don't really have the money to pay for this type of services and the type of experience from folks, like myself, who have done this a bunch of times. And I loved working with those early stage founders, but I also wanted, to figure out a model where I could, of course, sustain a living. And I really thought, what if we brought an operating partner model into the vertical venture funds in hospitality? So I sort of shopped this idea around to a bunch of people. I met the managing partners at Techne Infinity Ventures. They're Silicon Valley based, completely focused on travel and hospitality, and they were building out a scalar program. And so I'm the operating partner at Techne, and I work specifically with our scalar fund, which we invest in startups from seed to Series B. And we also do a very deep advisory engagement with those portfolio companies around go-to-market, product market fit, and fundraising readiness. And that's what we're really there to do: form the bridge to Silicon Valley, form the bridge to hospitality, and form the bridge to really incredible tech folks. And that combination of Silicon Valley and hospitality background is what makes it a really unique position and allows us to have a great relationship with founders.
Wow. I don't know what to say to follow that, to be honest, Jessica, because your career, it's like it really took that full circle moment, didn't it? From that first, university course that you were forming there about entrepreneurship. And now you've got all that experience. I mean, that is a vast experience in touching almost all areas of hospitality, and then back to supporting entrepreneurs at the stage where they honestly really, really need it, which is we were saying before, like the scale up phase is a very specific
Exactly.
phase of a business, right? Because as we were saying before, like they've got quite a lot of market experience. We know they're worth their salt. They can run a business. They've got a product that's viable, but they get to this point perhaps where they've created like 10, 20, 30 different models according to different clients that they've had,
Exactly.
because that's what you do when you're a startup. And then they go, help, Jessica. So you come in at that point. What do you do with them?
Yeah, I mean, folks call that crossing the chasm, right? Just where do you kind of finally find that really tight product market fit and that go to market flywheel that allows you to get from, let's call it $1 million in revenue to 20 to 50 to 100, right? And I've sat in companies at all of those stages. So when I'm working with our founders, they know that I'm coming from the perspective of having done this myself. We work in a very tight engagement with founders. So we're meeting with them weekly. We're really letting them lead in the areas of go-to-market, product market fit, and fundraising with what they need help with. But of course, we bring the structure, the experience, and and really get that flywheel going for them. In the case where they're fundraising, we're helping syndicate funding. So, it might be as simple as, I always give the example, when you take a company to Sequoia or A16Z, one of the, big venture funds, and you say it's a hospitality payments company, they sort of say, oh, that's a niche industry. I don't know anything about hospitality. But you say, I've got a fintech company with a vertical focus on hospitality that can expand out into other long tail industries. All of a sudden, that's really, really interesting, right? And so a lot of what we're doing is helping founders build investable companies with that lens on it, right? They might have great go-to-market advisors and great other advisors that have a lot of value that they can add, but they're not necessarily bringing that lens of like, how do I build this company so that I can get investment so that I can scale, right? And it's the flywheel itself with go-to-market, with finding product market fit, but it's also making it in a way that makes that company investable and allows you to then go out and fundraise, in order to get that scale.
Right. Right. So as we were saying, it's like you really need that advisorship because you can't see the label on the bottle from inside the bottle. As smart and amazing you are as a founder, you always need advisorship from outside. So if, for the founders that might be listening, what would you recommend in terms of choosing that advisory board that they're going to surround themselves with to make that leap?
Well, I think in hospitality and travel tech, you can't, it is very important to have that industry knowledge, right? I mean, you can do a lot of the things that would work in digital marketing or demand generation in other industries in hospitality, but we're very fragmented. It's hard to figure out who the decision makers are, right? So really understanding if your advisors have operated in the industry before. And I think connections are incredibly important. Everyone's always interested in what is your Rolodex, but it's also how well do you understand my product, the segmentation, how this fits with the other competitive set, right? And really laying that all out in a structured way and doing that work together. And then understanding where are the scaled partners, and whether those are actual partnerships or those are larger hotel groups, mid-market hotel groups in many cases. How can I start to work with the brands, etc.? And so you want to know if the people that you're working with have done that successfully before, have helped other companies do that before. I've worked with over 50 companies in hospitality tech from the earliest stage, through to obviously TravelClick, as it's sold to Amadeus, is either the largest travel tech company in the world or top 5, let's call it. And so you really want to understand what is the background, and then also, will that person get in the weeds with you? How much time are they going to give you? How do they do introductions to other people, right? Meet my friend so and so. It's only so helpful, right? Sit on a call with you, work through use cases. How would this work in your business? Help me understand sales and marketing at your company. Let's do that across 5 companies, 10 companies, understand how different segments do it, right? And that could be in any area, right? How does procurement work? How does laundry operations work, right? It's sort of across the gamut, but it's about figuring out those use cases and picking people who can help you not just make the connection, but make the connection meaningful.
Mm-hmm. Make it meaningful. I love that. Absolutely. And so you work with lots of different founders. One of the questions I had to you was, what makes a founder stand out to you when you meet them? What makes you know that they've got it to keep going and create a successful business and exit?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty simple. I think the biggest, 2 characteristics are really having a clear vision for something that is scaled, right? We're not building small businesses. We're looking to build, especially in Silicon Valley, billion-dollar companies, right? So is the idea big enough that it can scale? And then with founders specifically, is that person coachable? Do they have the bandwidth to spend the time working on this, right? And oftentimes we send founders away and we say, you're in the middle of a fundraise right now. Come back to us when you're done so that we can put the time into this, right? Or we'll pause our engagements when something really big is going on, or pivot. We thought we were working on, a general demand generation program, but you have this incredible enterprise opportunity. Let's work through the term sheet. What does the negotiation look like? How do you find leverage when you're working with a much larger player and they have most of the leverage, right? So, I think that coachability, that open-mindedness to take in feedback, and yet still that true vision, that real understanding of like, it at the end of the day, as a founder, it's your company and you have to be 100% behind it. It's going to be your work to do, right? And that's the other thing about advisors, right? They can't do it for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think you've just described kind of every person who should be eager to learn and coach situation. You go to the gym, you need to put the reps in. You want to train your dog, you need to do it at home. The person can only tell you. And with companies, you've got to have the bandwidth. That's a great insight, because I also work with a lot of clients, and if you don't have the bandwidth to be able to respond and be able to act on the advice, right, it's not going to happen. So that's interesting to know that it's also about timing and availability of that person that you're with.
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's an engagement, right? It's 4 to 6 months of concentrated work, introductions into relevant, folks in our ecosystem, whether that's on the capital side, on the tech side, on the hospitality side. And so you have to have that bandwidth, and it works best when it really is a concentrated amount of time. We get deep knowledge of your company. We bring in our experts, and that's how we make it work. And some of those experts, of course,
Brilliant.
being experts from Gain, right? And our partnership.
Yeah, that's a great segue, actually. So we're part of the Scalar program. Our advisors in Gain are part of your Scalar program. So explain how you work with the different advisors that you have in your menu of possibilities for your leaders.
Well, it's really different, depending on the advisor. There's a lot of different roles that advisors play. That could be everything from, we have advisors that sit on our investability committee. They come from Silicon Valley alongside our investment committee internally. They look at these companies through the lens of investability at the beginning. And then we have advisors that we check in once a quarter with them. We, check in on, I think of someone like Rob Torres, who runs media at Expedia, right? I'm working with Rob to understand trends. Where is Expedia going? What's going on in the world of OTA, right? But he's not necessarily meeting with our founders. And then we have advisors like Gain that actually work with our founders, maybe across specific go-to-market areas, or specific areas, and those advisors have expertise that's an exact fit for the company, right? So if I'm working as I do with one of our companies, Signal Flare, which is a decision intelligence tool for enterprise restaurants, right? And we're looking at how can we build them into the hotel industry. How do we continue to productize their offering, their unified data platform, and then all of the AI tools that sit on top of it for decision intelligence. And, so that company would have a totally different set of advisors than when I'm working with Shevket, who's the CEO and founder of Directful, and we're focused on how do we bring clients back to rebook the hotel, using CDP and AI to send the right message at the right time. Completely different set of founders, and that would be different if we were working in the area of procurement, restaurant delivery, robotics, right? We work across so many different areas. So it's both the subject matter expertise as well as the experience in the vertical, and kind of a matchup of the right advisor.
So it's a mix and match, and you have access basically to a number of different people that you will pull in and out of the project and make sure that they get what they need.
Exactly, and customize to the founder's needs as well, right? When I work with Series B companies, they're rarely using me for investment readiness, because of course they've fundraised a number of times, right? So they know how to create that great pitch deck. They know their story. They know what resonates. They go back to their original investors, and they've built out a network. And of course, we'll give them access to our network on top of that, but that wouldn't be where we would concentrate our time. So it really is a custom engagement in our Scalar, and the advisors are specific to payments or digital identity or restaurant tech, kiosk, whatever it is.
Yeah. And I think that goes back to your point about it being really important to work from people within this industry, because it's such a varied, nuanced industry, which has so many different niches and sub niches. So yeah, it makes perfect sense. I
Yeah,
mean,
there's a learning curve, right? But we're also building best in tech, and that's important too, right? So a lot of hospitality tech companies in the past have built point solutions, and you have, great hoteliers who saw a problem and built a very narrow point solution. That's also not a scalable company from the lens of venture capital, right? So we are trying to find that perfect match of, a technical founder who really can build a great product and architect something that can be built for scale and evolve as it goes, as time goes, and fundamental AI, especially Gen AI today, right, built into the product itself. And then you've got the business side of things and building out that go to market flywheel, finding that product market fit, being the face of the company, being
yeah,
at the conferences, etc. Right? And we all know what that's like. That's the side of the business I come from. So that's my world.
yeah, yeah. It's all such good stuff, Jessica. I mean, we're going to unfortunately have to wrap up, but I want to make sure we touch a couple of points that we promised in the description. So if we could just quickly answer, like, what's one mistake you see early stage founders or like these not seed round, these scale up founders make when they're approaching their businesses and that they could avoid perhaps?
I think it is about building for future investability, right? So not giving away too much of your cap table too early. Maybe taking on too many C-level people too early, right? Really thinking about where you are at what stage. The longer you can bootstrap and be gritty, the better. But at some point, you really do want to crack things open for scale. And at that point, you do bring in those advisors and you start to hire and you start to scale up. So
Sorry.
I think that's, you just want to avoid getting there too early and putting yourself in a position where you can't really, where you can't really get the capital you need as a result.
Yeah, that makes sense. Sorry, Jessica, I've had a bit of a coughing fit.
No worries.
Sorry, everyone. Don't know what happened. That's great advice, and I think we've covered the advice piece there, because always thinking about your future self really as a company and not just about the now, right? That's great.
Exactly.
And last but not least, are there any trends or areas of the market that you think are undervalued or perhaps even overlooked right now, since you've got that very global view of what's going on in the industry?
I mean, I think there's so much opportunity right now. I mean, we've just never had the ability for technology to transform. I mean, I always say this is like the industrial revolution, right? AI gets talked about a lot, but Gen AI, being able to create that unified data layer and then build on top of it to have products that can give insights, actionable insights into businesses. That's so exciting to me. I think a lot of what's happening in robotics is really exciting. We know our challenges are around labor, our challenges are around experiences and being able to deliver and build loyalty with the guest around their customized experience and what their preferences are. And so that is really what's exciting to me. And then there's, of course, like fundamental foundational tech, right? We're all challenged by the APIs in the industry, we're all challenged by data in the industry, right? So folks, cyber security, right, digital identity, really foundational fundamental areas like that are really exciting. And we're building companies in our incubation studio that solve some of those problems, and we're always looking for great founders. And then we're really excited about also amazing tech founders that want to come into the space, experienced founders that see the opportunity. Travel and hospitality is huge, and we want to bring in new people too and build amazing companies with them.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess it boils down to solve the problems that we've got in the industry, and you'll
It
go far.
does.
You've got
It
some,
does.
we have the technology we have on the on the table, on the drawing table, we have the technology to solve the problem. So let's get on with it and do it.
And broad platforms, SaaS or even PaaS, platforms that are really not just addressing one single point solution. We talk every day to CTOs who have 50, 100 different technology systems in their hotels, right? That's what we need to transform, so
Yeah.
that we can come in with bigger solutions to bigger problems that solve very broadly.
Yeah. Yeah. Exciting, very exciting times for our industry. And you're in a unique position really to enjoy this, like you say, this industrial revolution and be part of the change. So excited to see what you do next and what you do with Gain. And if anybody would like to contact Jessica, obviously find her on LinkedIn, or you can contact any of us Gain folks to find out more about Techne. And thank you so much, Jessica. It's been great.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Have a
All right.
fantastic day.
You too. Take care.
Thanks so much.
All right. Bye.
Bye.